Chapter 2. Vacation. The moon hung in the sky outside the window, a great glowing heart. Sprawled in bed, Axel stared at it without really looking, idling this time away before he had to leave on a mission.
We will conquer hearts and make them our own. Hearts shall never again have power over us.
For the past few days, he had been mulling over what Xemnas could have meant by that speech. Hearts having power over them, what was that about? Whenever Axel was whiling away the hours by himself, that phrase kept bouncing around in his head. He didn't know what was so compelling about it. Did the other nobodies think about stuff like this? Hearts, emotions. He couldn't stop thinking about where it all came from. He chewed over the possibilities, coming up with theories. Since when had he been a philosopher? But he did know the answer to that question, and he was probably just pretending he hadn't realized it. These thoughts had been occupying him ever since Roxas had joined the organization, or rather, Roxas and Shion. Those two had lobbed so many questions at him as they grew as nobodies. Was it just their curiosity that had him thinking so much? But it hadn't started when they joined the organization. It was after he'd gotten to know Shion, after Castle Oblivion. Whatever the catalyst, he had to acknowledge that something in him was different. The old Axel wouldn't have wondered about all that. He was changing, but why? His train of thought rambled on until suddenly he felt someone else with him. Irritated, he sat up.
Ever heard of knocking? You should try it sometime.
Sykes was standing there beside his bed. Axel decided not to look at him and focused on a random point on the wall. But Sykes made no sign of caring one way or another. His voice was as dispassionate as ever.
Tell me what Shion has been doing.
How should I know? Axel retorted. It's not like I follow her around all day.
But you do seem close.
Axel considered why Sykes would be so interested in Shion. He already knew what made Roxas special, namely, being the Keyblade Master's nobody, but he still had no definite answers as to what might set Shion apart. And while he wouldn't mind having some, he was certain of one thing. Asking Sykes for answers was an exercise in futility. He wouldn't give any either. He got up to face Sykes.
What, so I've got to rat on my friends to you? Get out of my room.
On the topic of things that had changed, his relationship with Sykes had too. Axel thought it must have changed a bit since he started hanging out with Roxas and Shion, although he couldn't have said exactly what about it was different.
You and Shion will be working together on your next mission,
said Sykes.
Well, thank you, sir, for coming all this way to tell me.
Axel went to the mirror and started to fix his hair. Sykes glared at Axel's reflection, their eyes meeting in the mirror.
We'll also need you to go back to Castle Oblivion.
Axel turned to look at him directly, his lips curling.
We? So that came from our fearless leader, did it?
Sykes, of course, didn't answer that.
The castle hasn't given up all its secrets. There is one in particular that Lord Xemnas.
You mean that chamber again? Axel interrupted, turning back to the mirror.
We turned that place inside out and upside down. If it's there, we're not going to find it by just looking.
The all but permanent scowl on Sykes' face relaxed a bit.
Then let me give you another incentive. Naminé isn't the only one who can trace her beginnings to Castle Oblivion. Shion came from there too.
He paused, but Axel gave no response.
Two of your favorite people.
Sykes went on.
Still think another visit is a waste of time?
There it was, the dangling bait. To bite without making Sykes work for it would be so boring. Axel snorted and spun to face him again. Sounds like you're the one who's so interested in Castle Oblivion. He stepped forward and passed Sykes, out of his line of sight.
Let me guess, the chamber will tell you everything you want to know about Xemnas' true agenda. Is that about the size of it?
Still facing away, Sykes replied.
The Chamber of Repose and the Chamber of Waking. There is something Xemnas isn't telling us about his plans. The missing chamber, the Chamber of Waking, it holds all the answers.
Then he turned to fix a level stare on Axel.
Those answers will give us the upper hand, and then we can worry about our own plans.
Yeah, I know. Our plans.
That part won't change.
Axel let out a breath.
Look, I knew Vexen and Zexion would cause trouble for you. That's why they're not around anymore.
That sounded more like he was justifying it to himself, Axel thought. Their lack of hearts didn't render their actions meaningless. It wasn't as if they never thought carefully or acted without objectives in mind. Humans and nobodies alike would pursue their own purposes.
The dirty work doesn't bother me, Axel went on. You just make for the top.
There was nothing false in that, and he looked Sykes in the eye as he said it. Sykes stared hard back at him.
Right, we have our own agenda.
Sykes spun on his heels.
You will have a solo mission in Castle Oblivion. Expect the orders soon.
With that, he was gone. Left alone in his room, Axel clenched his fists and then stalked out after Sykes. Shion went to the lobby, but Roxas wasn't there yet. She stared out the window.
See anything interesting out there, Poppet?
Sigbar patted her on the shoulder. Meanwhile, Axel plopped down on the sofa and pretended he wasn't listening in. Shion turned to look up at Sigbar. Just Kingdom Hearts.
Is it all that interesting?
It's kind of pretty. Sigbar let out a low chuckle. Axel didn't see what Sigbar found so entertaining about that reply. But then he could never quite follow what he was thinking. Shion looked rather confused herself. What's so funny?
Oh, nothing. You're just making so much progress.
Sigbar kept laughing as if there was an uproariously good joke in it somewhere. They hadn't gone on a mission together since Shion got her Keyblade back, but his reaction stung a little. If she was making progress, what had him in stitches like this? Demyx poked his head in between them.
Hey, what am I missing? Somebody tell a funny story? We were just saying how Poppet here is so much better at her job than you are, said Sigbar.
Huh? Demyx shrugged.
I don't get it.
Finally, Sykes intervened.
Shion.
She looked up and scurried to him, while Axel took the opportunity to get up from the sofa.
You're working with Axel today,
Sykes told her.
Don't dally.
With Axel? Shion turned to the nobody in question. Axel nodded jauntily.
Yup, we're partners now.
Well, as long as you stay out of my way.
Excuse me? That's my line.
Sykes watched their banter with a withering glare, which actually cut Axel's laughter short. Shion noticed too, and quickly assumed a more professional bearing. In an attempt to break the suddenly oppressive mood, Axel asked Sykes,
Anyway, where's Roxas off to today? He and Sigbar will be taking another look at another new world. Huh.
There had to be some purpose to Sykes' directives. He didn't just pair up members at random. Partnering Axel with Shion and Sigbar with Roxas was part of a plan. Axel couldn't think of what it was at the moment, though, and he didn't even know whether Sykes meant to keep it a secret or whether his lips were sealed on someone else's orders.
Get to work,
said Sykes before anyone could start any more banter.
Yeah.
Axel turned his back on Sykes and walked into the corridors of darkness.
Why do I feel so out of it?
Roxas thought as he headed for the gray area. Lately, he was dreaming a lot. Not that the dreams told him anything. Maybe they were full of wide worlds opening up before him, but when he woke, he remembered only the vaguest impressions. And then even those were wiped away as he got out of bed, replaced by the weariness of a restless night.
Dude, where have you been?
Demyx greeted him in the lobby.
Team Axel already shipped out.
Team Axel? Roxas repeated foggily.
Yep, he and Shion are teamed up for the day, so they only have to work half as hard. Must be nice.
That was a little unusual, Roxas realized. Shion and Axel weren't often assigned to work together.
You get to work with me today, Tiger.
Another voice broke in. That would be Sigbar, with the weird nicknames. This was even worse than before. Could you not call me that? Roxas complained. Sigbar barked out a laugh.
You prefer Kiddo, or would you rather be Poppet too?
Right. Poppet was Shion. What is up with him and nicknames? Roxas wanted to ask.
We're off to explore a new world together. Let's get moving, Tiger,
said Sigbar, clapping an arm around his shoulders. Roxas was not exactly eager to get to work with someone so irritating, but it was work. It didn't have to be fun. He squirmed away from Sigbar and went to ask Sykes about the mission. Axel and Shion's mission took them to Twilight Town. It was an entirely unremarkable task for either of the Keyblade-wielding kids. destroy the Heartless around the town and collect the hearts. Axel's role was simply support. Climbing up the steps of the back alley, they encountered plenty of Heartless, which all met a rapid end on Shion's Keyblade. The Heartless floated up into the sky. Watching her skill, one would never guess she'd spent any length of time unable to use the Keyblade. She was as good as Roxas, possibly even better. Axel didn't understand why he'd been assigned with Shion at this point. The Heartless were certainly out in droves, but she didn't need his help from the look of things. Shion turned to him. That should be all of them over here, I think. Hey, you've gotten pretty good at this. Axel shook her hand. Huh? What's that for? What? I'm just commending your hard work. Can you not be so weird about it then? She laughed. Suddenly, Shion's face went hazy in Axel's vision. He rubbed his eyes. What was that? What's wrong? She asked.
Nothing.
For an instant, he thought he'd seen Naminé. Shion already looked like her, but not completely identical. Their hair wasn't the same color. But just now, just for a split second, Shion's hair had turned blonde, like Naminé's. What was going on? Axel? The concerned face was definitely Shion's. So what had just happened? Axel laughed off his confusion, rubbing his head.
Must have taken a hit from a new spell.
Are you okay? She still looked worried.
Don't worry about it. Let's go find the next batch of hearts.
If you're sure you're all right.
Sure as I'll ever be. Come on.
He started walking. Hey, wait! Shion's footsteps followed him, and when he looked back, she was still the girl he knew. Nothing had changed. His mind was probably playing tricks on him because of the similarities between Shion and Naminé. He shouldn't let it bother him.
Time to take care of business,
Axel called, summoning the chakrams to his hands at the top of the stairs. The station plaza was crawling with shadows. Right! Gripping the Keyblade, Shion charged into the swarm. A world new to them opened up beyond the blaze of light. Roxas stepped out of the corridors of darkness, blinking as he looked around. The place was a little reminiscent of Agrabah, with great stone buildings towering over dry, dusty earth. It was called the Olympus Coliseum.
Okay, let's take a look around and get back in time for dinner,
said Xigbar with a glance back at Roxas.
What are we looking for?
Roxas wondered. Knowing it was a recon mission didn't tell him exactly what they were supposed to be investigating.
Whatever there is to see, who knows, maybe new recruits.
Roxas had not been expecting that reply. After a moment, he asked the question it begged.
Such as? What are the requirements? Well, you know about nobodies, don't ya?
As Roxas tried to think, Xigbar forged ahead with explaining anyway.
If someone with an especially strong heart falls to the darkness, it turns into a heartless. Sometimes you get nobodies too. Take the strongest of them and bam, you get the organization.
At least half of that was new to Roxas.
I didn't know we were all such a big deal, he thought aloud. Heh, as if. You and Shion are the big deal, you know. Cream of the crop.
What? He didn't quite follow. Axel had suggested something like that, but not exactly. This explanation sounded a bit different. He had another question on the tip of his tongue, but at the moment, some Heartless showed up to interrupt them.
Oops, guess that's it for our water cooler chat.
Xigbar gripped the arrow guns.
Better get to work, Roxas.
A second behind him, Roxas readied the Keyblade and lunged for the Heartless. The cannon-like creatures were a pain, but with the Xigbar backing him up, he managed to take them down without too much trouble. Xigbar's prowess was no joke, Roxas thought, as he let the Keyblade wink out and caught his breath.
Hey, there you are! I've been waiting for you!
Called a rough, unfamiliar voice. Huh? Roxas turned to see a short person, or an animal. Despite his small stature, he had big horns.
What took you so long? I've got everything set up. Come on, hop to it. No time to waste if you want to be a hero. But I'm not...
The small man cut him off with a knowing look.
Save your breath, kid. I know all about it. Herc said you got potential. From what I just saw, he wasn't wrong. The name's Phil. I don't coach just anybody, so I hope you came ready to sweat.
Herc? Phil? Roxas had never heard of them. Phil walked in a circle around him, taking his measure, and finally pinched his arm through his coat. Ow! Hey, what gives? Phil made a satisfied noise. Looks like Herc found me a new trainee with some muscle on him. This is gonna be fun. Trainee? Look, you've got the wrong guy. How do I get out of this? Roxas turned to his partner for the day, or where he had been standing. Zigbar, where'd you go? There was no Zigbar to be seen. Your fighting's better than your stand-up routine, kid, said Phil. You got a name? Bewildered, he just answered honestly. Roxas? Alright, Roxas, let me just go double-check the training equipment. Meet me in the Coliseum when you're ready, and it better be soon. Phil scurried into a lofty stone temple, leaving Roxas staring after him in confusion. What was that all about? So you want to be a hero, huh? A chuckle sounded from right behind him. Startled, Roxas spun around, and now Zigbar was here. Where'd you go? To hide? His teammate drawled like it was patently obvious. Organization 13 doesn't exactly work out in the open, remember? Well, yeah, but... Roxas mumbled. I wasn't stealthy, so now what? It worked out just fine, though, Zigbar added. How do you figure? It seemed like Zigbar always had him confused. If they think you're one of them, you don't have to sneak around. I bet you'll be the best wannabe they've ever had. What's that supposed to mean? Whatever you think it means. Still laughing, Zigbar opened a portal to the corridors. Hey, are you bailing on me? As if. I'd only get in the way of your training. It's all you. Now thoroughly confused, Roxas just watched him leave. Axel blinked at the sunset and took a bite of sea salt ice cream. Roxas must be working late, said Shion. She already finished her ice cream. Their mission hadn't been too complicated. Plus, they were already in Twilight Town, so coming to the clock tower was a foregone conclusion. They knew they'd arrived before Roxas, but he should have been here by now. Hope Zigbar's not bullying him too much, Axel remarked. Yeah. They fell quiet for a bit. Shion realized that this might be the first time she had been alone with him like this. You know, Axel. When I sit here watching the sunset with you guys, I get the strangest feeling, like I used to watch the sunset and talk about nothing with someone else. She'd never brought this up before. Her gaze dropped as she gathered her thoughts. I get the same feeling when I look at the sea. Then she reached into her pocket and took out a shell. When I stand at the water's edge, listening to the waves, it's almost like I can hear other voices. She stared at the little object in the palm of her hand. So, it's like you're remembering something? Said Axel. No, not quite. Shion shook her head. I don't know. Maybe it is a memory. I couldn't tell you either. The conversation trailed off again. The sea, a seashell. To Axel, there was only one person that brought to mind. Sora. He thought he knew a thing or two about Sora's memories, scattered as they were by Namine's handiwork in Castle Oblivion. You could hardly get away from the sea back where he was from, the Destiny Islands. And that good luck charm, the symbol of Sora's promise to Kairi. Wasn't it made of seashells? So it wasn't just Sora, it also made him think of Kairi, a princess of heart. If Shion had some connection to Namine, then naturally, that memory of hers pertained to Kairi somehow. Namine was Kairi's nobody after all. Or maybe it meant that Shion was related to Kairi herself. So whose nobody was Shion? Now that he was thinking about this, he had to wonder if seeing Namine and Shion during the mission was more than just random hallucination. But Axel, you have memories, don't you? Shion asked. More or less. Not that they've ever done me any good, he replied, looking over at her. Shion seemed unsure. I'm like Roxas. Neither of us remembers anything. I wonder if we had so much in common before we were nobodies. Axel had no answer for that. He had a guess, but he certainly couldn't tell anyone about it. The organization's plans, the machinations he was involved in, and the time with Shion and Roxas, everything was starting to clash. He squinted into the sunset. All of them were nothing but pawns to Organization 13. Well, to Xemnas specifically. Only Axel and Sykes were trying to use him right back. But now, The train sped away out of town with the lonely cry of the whistle. Shion and Axel both sat there, lost in thought, until finally Roxas arrived. "Hey, sorry I took so long." "You sure did," Shion told him with a grin, slipping the seashell back in her pocket. "We finished our ice cream ages ago." Roxas sat down beside her. "Sigmar cut and run. I had to finish the mission on my own." "Sounds like you earned yourself a treat," said Axel. Not wasting any more time, Roxas dug in. Axel pocketed the stick from his own ice cream. "Sigmar is such a jerk," Roxas complained between bites. As always, the trio talked about nothing and everything, laughing all the while. Every day passed like the one before it. Roxas opened his eyes, blinking away the dreams, and went to the gray area. He had been going on solo missions lately, which was a bit tiring. "Morning," he said, then realized he was greeting an empty lobby. The light from Kingdom Hearts shone down in the cavernous room. Where Sykes would usually be found, he saw a piece of paper tacked on the wall. "Operations closed for vacation." "Vacation?" Roxas mumbled. He wasn't clear on the concept. What was he supposed to do with himself? Anyway, there was certainly no one here. Maybe he wasn't supposed to be in here either. Then he recalled something Demix had said not too long ago about needing a vacation or he'd go insane. He walked back up the hallway and found Axel. "Oh, hey Roxas. Been a while since we've had some time off." Axel seemed to be in higher spirits than usual, but maybe it was just his imagination. "I don't know. I've never had a vacation before." "Really? Huh." Axel shrugged. Axel?" Looking up at him, Roxas frowned briefly, then asked the question. "What am I supposed to do during vacation?" "Supposed to do? What kind of question is that?" Roxas hung his head, unable to fake his way out of ignorance. "But I really don't know." Without a mission, he honestly had no idea what he should be doing. "You just do what you want," said Axel. "What I want? I don't know what I want to do." Axel let out a long-suffering sigh. "Well, I'll tell you what I'm gonna do. Sleep. And then maybe have a cat nap and a snooze after that." "But you do that anyway," said Roxas, still confused. "Hey, I'd nap 6 times a day if they'd let me." How could anyone sleep that much? Roxas thought. I'd just have dreams that wear me out even more. "Speaking of, I'd better get to it. Enjoy your break." As he turned to go, Roxas grabbed his sleeve. "Wait, Axel." "Hey, come on, let me get some sleep." Axel yawned, stretching his arms to emphasize his point. That was when Shion happened to turn the corner, stopping in her tracks to stare at them. What are you two doing?" "Did you see the paper?" said Roxas. "Yeah." "What are you gonna do, Shion?" Axel yawned again through Roxas's question. "If anyone cares, I was just getting back to bed." "What? Oh, okay." Roxas nodded uncertainly as Axel sauntered off without another word. How can he be that sleepy? "Roxas?" Shion prompted. "Oh, yeah, what are you up to?" She grinned. "I thought I'd get in some practice." "Practice?" "I want to get better with my Keyblade. Why don't you join me?" Roxas didn't really get why she needed to do anything with the Keyblade when they were on a break. "No thanks, I'll pass." "Okay, well, I'll see you around then. You can come find me if you feel up to it later." Then Shion was leaving too, her steps brisk and energetic. Alone in the deserted hallway, Roxas sighed. "Do what I want," Axel said. "But what would that be? I mean, what do I like? Ice cream, I guess?" He couldn't think of anything else, so he started walking. Roxas emerged in the usual back alley of Twilight Town and headed for the sweets shop in the Common. He'd never been here so early in the day before without even a mission to finish. As he descended the stairs toward the sandlot, he heard a girl's voice cheering. "Woohoo! Go Hainer!" "Keep it up!" another voice called. That trio Roxas kept seeing was playing some kind of ball game down there. "Ugh, no more! Guys, I'm done!" The spiky-haired boy tumbled on the ground, his limbs splayed. "Oof, I am bushed." What sort of game was it? Roxas hadn't meant to stop and watch, but they noticed him. "Huh? Who's that?" The girl looked up. Olette, that was her name. Oh, hey, I know you! The heavyset boy came trotting his way. Pence, the one who had provided local intelligence to help in the search for Shion. How's it going? Hi. Roxas faltered, wondering how to get out of this. He was supposed to avoid having contact with the world's denizens. But on the other hand, their game had caught his curiosity. On your own today, huh? Pence asked. Did you find your friend? Roxas nodded. Yeah. Olette came closer. How do you know him, Pence? We ran into each other not too long ago. Oh, well, it's nice to meet you. She held out her hand to Roxas. I'm Olette. Now what? Roxas hesitated. And I'm Pence. Wait, you knew that already. That's Hainer over there. Pence gestured toward the third member of their group. The other boy had finally dragged himself to his feet, but he was giving Roxas a rather unfriendly look. A bit intimidated, Roxas turned back to Pence. So, what were you all doing? Watching Hainer practice his grandstander act, Pence replied. You keep hitting a ball in the air and don't let it touch the ground, Olette explained. It's harder than it sounds. Timing is everything. Hainer's one of the best in town, Pence added, glancing behind him. Right, Hainer? The boy in question marched toward him, holding his bat like a sword. You knew? What do you want with us? Nothing. I'm just passing by. Roxas didn't know how else to respond to open hostility. Oh yeah? Well, keep passing, Hainer snapped. We're busy. Hainer! Olette scolded him. That was uncalled for. What's the matter with you? Sorry about that, Pence told Roxas. He doesn't mean anything by it. Hainer's glare, however, suggested that he meant every word. Maybe I'd better just go, Roxas thought, but then Hainer spoke up. You try it. Let's see your grandstander. What's that going to prove? Olette groaned. Come on, just let him try. Here. Hainer handed Roxas the bat, and then Pence tossed him the ball. You just bounce the ball off that, and whoever gets the most hits wins. Okay, here goes. Roxas smacked the ball into the air and ran to stay under it. Then he struck it again, and again. That's it! Keep going! Olette called. It was fun, actually, finding just the right timing and sending the ball up in the air again. Roxas got in a few dozen hits before sweat made his hand slip on the bat, and the ball dropped to the ground. Olette and Pence both ran up to him. That was seriously your first try? You're good. Yeah, that was awesome. Just as Roxas wondered what Hainer himself would have to say about that, the latter slowly stepped toward him. Huh, you're not bad. Are we cool? I guess. Thanks. Hainer looked away to mumble. Sorry I jumped on you before. Jumped on? What was he talking about? Hainer was just tetchy because Cypher beat his record, Pence explained, snickering. Hey, he doesn't need to know that, Hainer complained. Olette giggled. Fuming, Hainer turned crimson. That includes you! It was kind of funny. Roxas found himself breaking into a grin too. Come on, now you're laughing at me too? Hainer sulked. Now all four of them were giggling together. This was really nice. Roxas said his goodbyes and got himself his daily treat, then climbed up to his perch on the clock tower. Right below him in the station plaza, the same three were now running around playing something like tag. There he goes! I got him! Guys, I can't take this anymore. Pence wheezed, doggedly trying to evade the other two. Roxas took a bite of sea salt ice cream. Fancy meeting you here, said a familiar voice. Roxas turned to find Axel behind him, stretching and yawning. Slept like a baby. He sat down beside Roxas just as Hainer's voice rang out from below. Ha! Gotcha! Aw, man, I'm not gonna be able to walk tomorrow. Pence collapsed to the plaza's paving stones. What are those guys doing? Is it summer vacation? Nah, it can't be. It's too early, Axel murmured. Roxas glanced up at that. Summer vacation? What's that? The kind of perk only humans get, Axel laughed. A whole month off. A month? What do they do with themselves? Roxas looked down at Hainer and his friends again. I can't even figure out how to fill a day. It was nice running into them and playing around for a bit, Roxas thought. But all day, every day? For a whole month? He'd go insane.
Well, they don't have to look far for things to do. The teachers give them a ton of homework, and they've got to hang out every day. Trust me, it's over before you can blink. I don't know. I could deal with a week, maybe.
Roxas finished his ice cream and distractedly hugged his knees.
But that would be fun. A whole week like today. Most kids spend the time just messing around with their friends. They put off the homework until the end and then help one another finish it.
He was apparently speaking from personal experience. Was Axel referring to his own memories of summer vacation as a human?
It's not a bad way to spend your time. I hadn't really thought about it since I became a nobody,
he murmured, almost to himself, before turning the conversation back to Roxas.
So, what'd you end up doing today?
How did I know you guys would be here? Another voice asked at the same time. Roxas turned to see Shion sitting down beside him.
Hey, so where'd you go?
Nowhere. I was just practicing in the castle, and finally I got bored, said Shion. Why? Did you two go somewhere without me?
Does going to sleep count?
What? Axel, you wasted your whole day?
Hey, I needed the rest. I work hard on the job, unlike some people.
It's not our fault you get tired so quick, Shion shot back, and the three of them cracked up together.
Well, back to work tomorrow, said Axel.
Yeah, Shion replied. I hope we get another day off soon. The far-off call of a bird broke through the stillness.
Oh, by the way, it looks like they're shipping me off again, said Axel, a bit subdued. I won't see you guys for a bit.
What? Shion and Roxas both chorused.
Yeah, I'll be going out on recon for a few days.
Where? Shion demanded. Axel stretched his shoulders as usual and smirked.
Can't tell ya.
What do you mean by that? Roxas pressed.
It's classified,
Axel said with a shrug. Shion was entirely unsatisfied with this. I thought we were friends.
Doesn't mean I have to tell you everything. Everybody's got secrets.
The smirk hadn't left Axel's face, but his voice was low and solemn.
Got it memorized?
Secrets? Roxas repeated to himself.
Do I have any of those?
Shion's gaze dropped, as if her thoughts were wandering too.
Geez, you two, I'm kidding,
Axel laughed, dispelling the pensive mood.
I just gotta keep my mouth shut about this or I'll have Sykes on my case. You know how he gets. Watch your step with him, okay?
If that was a warning, he probably meant it. Roxas didn't know what they would have done without Axel when Shion lost the use of her keyblade. They would have been out of luck on their own. He nodded, taking the advice seriously.
Okay. Try not to bungle everything while I'm gone,
Axel added. Why would we do that? Said Shion.
Well, considering your track record.
Excuse me? Don't make me come over there. At Shion's mock threats, Roxas lost it. She turned on him. Come on, Roxas, back me up.
Phew.
But she couldn't hold back the giggles either. And then, nor could Axel.
I wish it could always be like this,
Roxas thought.
The three of us laughing together.
Like those three friends here in Twilight Town. Back at the castle, Axel ambled through the halls back to his room, by himself. It was nice to have a little break.
Where have you been?
Sykes turned, but he already knew who it was. No one else would be so brusque.
What, now I have to report every detail of my day off to you?
Sykes had no response for that. A moment went by before he spoke again.
You're letting yourself get too attached to them. Right, sir. Of course, sir.
Sykes spun on his heels.
Was that all he wanted to say to me?
But just as Sykes started walking away, he caught a barely audible murmur.
You've changed.
He listened to Sykes' receding footsteps, and his gaze dropped to his own feet.
You sure I'm the one who changed?
He said under his breath.